Exploring different views in Project 2007. In our previous lesson, we assigned the resources to all tasks. Now in this lesson, we are going to discuss the available views in resources. If you've watched our videos carefully, you might think that we have missed one important part, and that is views in resources. Let's discuss how to find that. We have the Project 2007 open. Select a task here, and then click on the Smart tool here. This opens up the Assign Resources dialog box. Click on the Project Manager here, and also here we have a new button, Graphs. Click on Graphs now. Project 2007 provides 3 different graphs, and importantly, these 3 graphs show different things. We have remaining availability, work, and assignment work. Let's explore these 3 things. First, select Remaining Availability. As the name itself says, this is going to display the remaining availability of that resource. See, this fellow is free on these days, a Saturday and a Sunday, and he is busy on these days. Similarly, the next graph is Work, which is going to show the working days of the resource. And finally, we have the Assignment Work graph, which shows each task on a day. Graphs are one additional feature included in Project 2007. Graphs are an additional feature which helps us to give reports in graphs whenever needed. In the next lesson, we are going to discuss creating budgets and tracking costs. How to create budgets and track costs. In our previous lessons, we talked about resources and assigning costs to a resource. In this video, we are going to discuss creating budgets and tracking costs. Budgets can be created and tracked from either of 2 directions by using either a bottom-up or a top-down estimating method. As we know, Project 2007 supports both methods. We have 2 topics to discuss here. First, we will talk about creating budgets for bottom-up method. In a bottom-up approach, base rates or per-use costs for resources and fixed costs or cost resources for individual tasks are estimated. When we create a bottom-up budget in Project 2007, first we enter pay rates, per-use costs, fixed costs, and cost resources. Next, we enter the estimated work or duration for each task. Finally, we assign resources to tasks. This is the simple method. This is how we do the bottom-up method, whereas in the top-down method, first we create budget resources that represent the overall budget for the project, including budget resources for costs, work, and materials. Second, we assign the budget resources to the project summary task. In this way, budgets are applied to the entire project. Third, we enter values for the budget resources. Fourth, we indicate which other resources in our project we want to track and measure against the overall budget resources. We do this by creating a custom field for all resources in our project, and then categorizing each of the resources, including the budget resources, by specifying in the custom field a value that indicates which budget type the resource is being measured against. And finally, after we categorize all resources by budget type, we group the resources to view how they compare to the overall project budget. Be very clear that these methods differ in certain types. So we have to be very clear when selecting the methods. In the next lesson, we will discuss how to assign costs to resources. Assigning costs. In our previous lesson, we talked about an intro on assigning costs. In this lesson, we are going to assign costs. We have Project 2007 open, and I have opened up the resource sheet here. So we have many resources, and we have 3 categories of assigning costs here: standard rate, overtime rate, and finally, cost per use. In cost, we are going to focus only on these 3 fields. We have a project manager here. We are going to assign the cost for this man. His standard rate is $50 an hour. His overtime rate is $75 an hour. So we have a web server here. This will be the cost if we use this resource. Project 2007 has an advantage of making all the calculations automatically. The mathematical calculation is really very simple. Total cost equals time that we use the resource times cost assigned to that particular resource. So this is the exact calculation that Project 2007 does. I've made some changes to all the resources here. Another thing that we have to concentrate on here is we have to be more updated in including the costs. If we're not updated, the budget will be wrong. So we have to be very careful in assigning the costs. In the next video, we are going to discuss more about managing costs.